stuff. If you do have a question along the way, feel free to put it in the chat, and Mary or I will address that as we go. I don't mind taking questions anytime, or they can come at the end. We are recording this session, so if you end up missing part of it, it will be available later on. Okay, I am Steve Kautz. I am a financial education programs specialist at the Finance Authority of Maine, and we'll be taking you through this talk today on raising financially savvy kids, which is something that's on my mind every day, as I have a 12-year-old who I am going through the process of always trying to decide what's the right time to teach this or that aspect of financial life. So I am living this with you. And some of the things in here, as I'm looking through the slides, are from my own experience and my colleagues, and from FAME in general, and from the outside world. We'll try to put together some resources for you to consider. Come on, there we go. So what we're going to do today, a little bit about why we're doing this, the role of families in raising financially aware, savvy kids, how to begin, what to teach and when. Again, something that I'm fighting with all the time. Some tips that we've gathered that are proven to be helpful, and lots of additional resources that you can access anytime, including staying in touch with FAME, where a lot of these resources live, and we are always happy to be available to you. FAME, in case you're not totally aware about what we do, FAME is here to support Maine people in achieving their business and educational goals, including providing resources and a variety of programs for K through 12 students, employers, and more. I do see a hand, and I'm going to take that question right away. Christine, do you have a question? Maybe just an accident. Okay, no problem. Well, at least I know I'll see your question if you raise your hands. Okay. So making the case, why is this important? I think, instinctually we all know, but there is some data to help us out. In some recent studies, I'm going to highlight the statement at the bottom in bold. Students in the US who reported that they discussed some of these topics with their parents on a weekly or monthly basis displayed higher performance in financial literacy. So having these conversations and being sort of immersed in financial literacy in the home makes a difference. According to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, financial well-being can be defined as having control over day-to-day or month-to-month finances, having the capacity to absorb a financial shock. That's a really big one, in my opinion. Being on track to meet financial goals, and having the freedom to make choices to allow you to enjoy life the way you want. Another big one for me. I think when we say we want kids to be financially savvy, what do we mean by that? These are some of the ways that is being defined. And it's not something that we talk about in general in our society, but especially in families. 3 out of 10 families would rather talk to their child about the birds and the bees than money. 2 out of 5 would rather discuss the dangers of drugs and alcohol than talk about money. Despite those stats, the household, parents, and caregivers are the greatest influencers when it comes to money. We adopt the habits from those around us, good and bad. And if this doesn't come from the parents and caregivers, where are they going to get it from? And is it their peers? You can see the one that I circled on the screen, social media. That is what's happening now, more than anything else. Not too long ago, I did an unscientific look at 10 social media driven or social media personal finance gurus on Instagram. And 8 of those 10 were giving advice that, let's just say, I wouldn't agree with as a financial educator. Very questionable financial advice, yet they were getting thousands and thousands and thousands of views and looks. There was some really good stuff out there too, but a lot really bad. So social media has become, I would say, the dominant way that our kids are getting financial education if they're not getting it from us. Of course, family members in school, you know, thinking about what your child's school may or may not be doing to meet Maine's personal finance and economic requirements. There are standards for Maine schools that touch on these. It's not a required course. There are folks still working toward having a required course, but there are some standards. And most of us learn ultimately by trial and error. So anything we can do to add to that knowledge along the way is going to be really powerful. Where to begin? There's a lot here on the screen. Again, you'll have access to this presentation, but the first section there, examining our own attitudes about how we feel about money and the language we use, our money mindset. You know, the mindset that I came from in my family, very different than where I am now in life, or from where I want my own kid to be in terms of how he thinks about how he spends his money, opportunities, and so on. We're always teaching, whether we mean to or not. And the biggest thing is we don't have to be an expert. In fact, sharing stories, especially mistakes that we've learned from, are incredibly powerful. I know this as a classroom teacher who taught personal finance for many, many years. The most impactful parts of my class were telling stories about things that actually happened, usually mistakes, but sometimes successes, because that prints memory and creates emotion, and helps people learn. So it's very important to share and have these conversations early and often, even when they're just little words here and there. A lot of show, you know, not necessarily just tell, but especially when shopping and making purchases, I will talk with my son when I go through the store, and we bought a TV together, and he helped me, you know, look at the different prices and some of the different features, and we had a conversation in the store. What's it worth? What do we want from a television? And what does this price mean? How long might we have it? What's it worth to our family? And what could we do with the money instead? So just involving him in that conversation, really valuable, and continue to do that. And the whole family being involved, you know, the budgeting process. What are we spending on things? If we make this choice, we can't have that, and so on, and so on, and so on. My son, I don't think he's really that interested, but I do show him my budget, my spreadsheet, hoping that it plants seeds along the way. It's a language, and immersing a child in this language is really important. Immersing us in this. It is not taught sufficiently, as we know, in our schools. So we need to do it at home, just like we would want to teach any language. In the chat, Mary's going to drop a link to the CFPB building blocks to achieve financial capability. This is really dense, and I'm not going to go through it in detail here. I just want to show you that it exists. It is very interesting to look at some, you know, professional psychological studies on children and learning, executive function, and how that translates into money behaviors. So that link will be in the chat. And here's just an example of that. And I find this really interesting. If you look at early childhood, a milestone might be controlling their own behaviors. In adulthood, how might this look in terms of finance? Think twice before buying, avoid making emotional purchases. I mean, this is not an exact science. However, it is fascinating to look at some of these and consider some of these milestones, skipping ahead to the middle ages, 6 through 12, delay immediate reward. In adulthood, that might mean saving money now for an item they want later. So again, this link is in the chat. I think it's an interesting read. It is dense, it takes some time, but I think it's a good resource to take a look at on executive function and the psychology of children and money. And I also am going to ask Mary to put into the chat a link to one of my blog posts. I do a blog for Fame, and one of the posts I did not too long ago was about today's topic, teaching our kids about money, just sort of a conversation about some of the experiences that I've had and things I've learned along the way. So that will be in the chat as well. And of course, there are other posts in the blog you might find interesting, but that one is specifically about today's topic. Some tips. Got several screens here, several slides about some tips that we've gathered, which really help to this goal of making children be more financially savvy. First, thinking about psychology, their money mindset, money messages. Look for money messages in the family and externally. So, for example, one family's money message might be that you need a lot of money to be successful. Another might be, we just have to meet our basic needs. We get our happiness in other forms. Or we are going to save for things before we buy them. And comparing these messages to what we get from the outside. What do they see in social media? What do they see in TV advertising? What do they see when they go to the store? And how these messages are not always connected and on the same plane or in agreement. And having these conversations about how we feel about money. So beyond that, what is it like to receive, to spend, to give, to share? Talking about peer influences and keeping up with the Joneses next door, the Joneses millionaire next door. And what's important, in terms of money, again, a family sends a message based on how they live and how they act with money, how they perceive or take risks with money. Is the phrase the stock market ever mentioned in the house? Things like that. Or messages from the news and how they're digested in the household when it comes to money. What we save for, what we pay for on a weekly basis, and how we feel about that, very important. Career, what we do for work, and the money we earn relative to that, and things we've done in the past or that we hope to do, all plays into this money mindset, messages and feelings. The least exact part, but probably the most important. Some other tips. The classics, allowances and work, using allowance and work to teach good money habits. A reward chart. A lot of folks have a chart at home. You do this, it's worth X amount of dollars, or just a bunch of chores that have to be done or tasks to earn a regular allowance, and tracking these. Encouraging children who are old enough to work and trying to figure out a support structure to where they can work a part-time job. The value of work, not only the money that it brings in, the experience, which leads to greater financial opportunities later. All of these are the classics, and they are still at the foundation of all of the recommendations for raising financially savvy kids. And the bottom one in bold, fail and overspend while it's still safe. So I'm going through this again as well with my 12-year-old who is socially wanting to do more things that now suddenly cost a significant amount of money. So we are working together to come up, with a plan to say, okay, if you want to go to a ball game, how much is the ball game going to cost? And what about all the other stuff? What's an amount of money that you would want to take with you to this game, and let the decisions be made? And not too long ago, he went to one of these events and came back and said, I shouldn't have bought, it was something to eat. I shouldn't have bought that. That was a waste of money. I thought it was really great for him to say that and, to reflect on having spent on something and then later said, I really wish I hadn't have done that. Next time, I'd rather spend my money on this or that. But again, fail and overspend, make mistakes while it's safe to make those. Other tips, saving and goal setting. The jar method, a give, a save, a spend jar, separating money, whether it's actually a jar or whether it's on a screen, looking at a bank account. Having the ability to sort of think about those things. My son, again, coming back to here at home, has money in a bank account, which he can look at on the computer screen. He has money he keeps in his little wallet. And then when he gets money through a birthday or something else or his allowance, where is it going to go? What's he going to do with that money? How much of it is he going to hang on to? How much of it does he want to save? And if he does want to spend it, is it for just these events that pop up, or is it for a longer term goal, like buying a bicycle or going to a particular event? All the time, trying to find out the best way, but it's a constant conversation about how to manage money and give little bits of freedom as much as possible, as often as possible. And a really great opportunity is to open a college savings account. The 529 account that Mainers have access to open to save for education is another way to show how putting money aside for something down the road, and it introduces the idea of investing, it introduces the idea of planning towards something and the feeling of accomplishment, tracking. I definitely show my son his college or education savings account, whether that's going to be for college or trade school, and the progress of that, and the realities of that it's not going to pay for everything, but we do what we can. And if you're wondering, or what, we just happen to have Mary here on board today. If you do have questions about opening a education savings account, please contact Fame, as we are the folks who would help you do that. Next, checking with the financial institution. This is a moving target because I've noticed just recently a couple of institutions that I interacted with at events have new products, new banking products that are really geared towards kids. I don't remember exactly what they were. They definitely caught my attention, and I'm going to look into it further. The point is there's a lot out there beyond the standard savings account. Some of these encourage kids to monitor what's in their accounts. Some may provide access to, a prepaid card of some sort so that they can learn how to spend money in that way, and so on. But different financial institutions are offering banking products geared towards kids. So check with yours, see what's out there. But at the very least, opening a savings account, a classic savings account, and having money put in there is still always a great option. I do like to show my son how I can transfer money instead of going to the bank, which we do sometimes. I think it's also important to go to a bank, but how we can transfer money online. So if I owe him some money for something, I'd say I can give you cash, or I could transfer this into your account from my account. Not getting into things like Venmo and other ways of transferring money in this conversation. Just kind of traditional account to account transfers. Consumer. This is a never ending, ongoing. The opportunities, the good news is they're every day. We're always shopping. So talking about comparison shopping, I always point out the unit price on a tag when we go shopping. And again, I believe in immersion. I believe in the language of money as I do immersion for language learning in general. And over time, I believe that this really does sink in to understand the concept of the price tag versus the unit price. And then what makes sense for the family. We have gone to a big box store and I said, sure, we could buy 8 boxes of cornflakes, but we're never going to eat them. So is saving 50 cents a box really worth it for our family? Maybe not. So conversations like that all the time. Kids will surprise us with how savvy they actually can be when we let them explore these ideas. Store brand versus name brand, another great conversation to show for their knowledge in general of our society and business and how that world works. And why is a store brand so much more cheaper? The idea of paying for advertising. I have found in my teaching of middle and high school students that they are more aware of this than we give them credit for. Use cash while shopping with your child when you can. We don't use cash for everything, but when we can, it's a great idea for them to handle cash. I'm looking at these and I want to point out, you'll notice I underlined discuss trade-offs and opportunity cost. I underlined opportunity cost. Economics is my background. And my poor kid, I bore him with, well, I know it's boring now, but someday he'll thank me. This idea of opportunity cost is at the core of everything. It's not just what this one item costs today, but it's if we want to do that, what are we giving up? So if we want to spend all this money at a ball game and hot dogs and drinks and all this other kind of stuff, well, what's the thing we're not doing as a family? Well, what's the thing you're not able to do with your money because you spent it there? And decide if that's worth it. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. I connect that to saving for education. Sure, I'd love to put more money into your education savings account, but I can't because we have other things to pay for, like our home, and food and everyday needs. So this idea of opportunity cost, I believe there is no age too young to be having that conversation, especially since it connects with all other aspects of life, not just money. Make it relevant, cost relative to hours of work. That's a great conversation. Again, depending on the age of the child, that's probably more for teens who are getting close to those years of work. And you say, well, what does it mean to earn minimum wage? How much is that? And what does that actually buy? I often talk a lot about the dollar store and how the dollar store is $1.25 now. And what does that really mean? Compared to somebody who's working for an hour of their wage, what does it mean to be able to get something for $1 versus $5 and so on? So relative to work. Internet security and financial fraud. My next blog post is going to be about this everyday battle. And I think we have to bring our kids along with this with us. The more we learn, some things we just simply have to take care of as adults, whether that's putting security on an email account or something else, but making them be aware that scams are out there. I got a phone call the other day, clearly a scam. I put it on speaker and I let the recording talk. And then we discussed how I thought that it was a scam, and go on from there. Little bits of education every place we can give it. Some other things encourage an entrepreneurial spirit for kids who, well, even if they're younger and they want to have a lemonade stand. I love the lemonade stand or something similar as a way to learn about doing something and earning some money. Of course, whatever that may be, jobs, and then longer term thinking about their skills that they are developing, things they're interested in, things they're good at that might have value, not just the job they work from 9 to 5, but in our gig economy, there's so many things that we are able to do that we like or that we're good at that can raise little bits of money here and there. And that can help us to achieve our financial goals. But being aware of that, very important. Higher education early and often, I've mentioned this already a couple of times, in terms of having, the honest conversation about saving for education after high school. there's no hiding the great expense involved in going to college or pursuing education after high school, but there's also a lot of opportunities. There are unique opportunities here in Maine. We talk about that all the time, and we're trying to save what we can. We're not going to be able to save it all. What does that mean? So we can't save it all. What does that mean? It doesn't mean you can't go. That's not the message that I want to send. It means you're going to have to think about pathways. Are you going to work for part of it? School choice or type of education choice after high school, trades versus college. All of these things are part of this conversation. And finally, leading to, if necessary, student loans and the impact of student loans. Sometimes they can be a wonderful lift to help us get that bit of education that we need, but not underestimating what it means to carry a student loan and to have to pay it back. And at a young age and continuing, having the conversation about school or education path choice versus cost and long-term opportunity costs. Is getting a particular degree or trade going to pay enough to make it worth what it costs to get it? And am I going to enjoy it? Is it something I want to do? Constant conversations in little bits here and there. I don't like to schedule these and carve out and say, let's talk about this. I like them to happen organically when the moment is connected to what's happening in our daily lives. It tends to land better and be more memorable. Finally, I'm going to call this what's behind the curtain. And what I mean by that is very simple connection to what I went through as I think, a financially savvy kid. Paper routes saved my money. My parents did a great job. My grandparents, everybody did what they probably should have to have me ready to be financially successful or secure. And then I went to college and they were handing out credit cards. So that was behind the curtain for that generation. My parents had no idea that was coming. They had no way to prepare me for something that they didn't know was possible themselves. So that got me into some financial difficulties, which took a while to get out of, and then ultimately led to me being a teacher on this subject. But that was behind the curtain for me and my family. But what's behind the curtain right now? Is it what social media is teaching? Is it cryptocurrencies? Is it the new car when we really can't afford the new car? That is every generation. Is it scams? And what's next? And although we don't know, the tip here is to be aware that we don't know and to be vigilant about trying to learn what's behind the curtain. What could be the next thing that could trap our children financially? And this is something to talk about at home and to say that in our system, there's wonderful opportunity to work, earn, and provide for your financial security. But there's also a lot of opportunities to overspend. We're a consumer-driven, marketing-driven society. We have other traps in terms of the difficulties of managing health insurance. And then again, some of the ones I mentioned here on the screen. Is when cryptocurrency first came along and was here, is it here to stay? Is it an investment? Is it speculation? Risk involved? Social media, again, the car. All of these things are what I like to call behind the curtain. And as we're trying to educate our children for financial success, this connects to, of all the things we teach them, what skills are transferable so that no matter what's behind the curtain, they are ready as can be. And I listed 4 big ones that, for me, the concept of understanding opportunity costs. Whatever this is costing me, whatever decision I'm making, what am I giving up? And that's my opportunity cost. Therefore, is this a good decision for me based on not just the $10, but what I could be using that $10 for. The whole too good to be true thing. This has never gone out of style. I guess it never will, but always having that filter. Is it just sound too good to be true? Yep. And more, I think, than ever, it probably is. Not taking for granted that students, our children, are just going to learn something because they're picking it up in school or somewhere else. Not taking it for granted, being assertive and being aggressive with that to make sure they're learning it, at least having the conversations, even if we're not teaching it directly, having the conversations at home about these topics. And one more I have in there is what's really free. The fact is, economics is my background, and we would say nothing is free. Everything has a cost. So it's always a challenge. I'm a nerd, so for me, it's fun. A fun challenge to find out what's the really cost of something that they call free. For example, a free TV when you sign for a car loan, we may be sitting here and saying, well, obviously that's not free, but it works. They get folks to sign up for a car loan, and they come home talking about the free TV they got, and so on and so on and so on. So these transferable skills developed little by little over time, watering those seeds, can help to deal with what's behind the curtain. And then family game night, make it a game, learning about money. Before I had my missteps with credit cards, here's another example. Credit cards were not part really of the Monopoly game, but I think a lot of the good money skills that I developed were from the Monopoly game. And I put an old income tax refund community chest card with the green arrow. And the reason I did that is because one thing that I've done with educators over the years, and I've also helped a family do this, is to make their own cards for Monopoly. So they make their own cards that relate to their own family. So when they pick up the chance card or the community chest card, it might say, you forgot dad's birthday, pay $10, something like that. Something that connects the game and the fun to your family's personal finances, opportunities, costs, and so on. And it just makes the game more memorable. Emotion prints memory, and so on and so on. So that's one way to take a game even to the next level. And then there are a lot of FAME resources that I'm going to show here on the screen. I'll let these set up here for a moment. You can access all of these from the FAME website, and a couple I'm going to show a little more in detail here on the next slides. FAME's Claim Your Future game and Invest in Me Read series. And then in this bottom section, there's something called Enrich Digital Financial Wellness. It is a financial wellness platform that FAME provides free for Mainers. It's called Enrich, and you can go to enrich.org and set up an account. And there are courses, mini courses, short courses, articles, videos, all kinds of financial literacy related topics, and accessible for all ages, really. And then Claim Your Future, I'm going to show more in a moment. So plenty of digital resources out there, and a lot of this can all be found on FAME's website. And if you're not finding something, please reach out to me, and I'll make sure you have my contact information as well. So Claim Your Future. I want to highlight this as one of FAME's resources that you can use to work with kids. This would be the online version. There's a physical version for classrooms or organizations, but let's talk about the online version. Claim Your Future was created to help students explore career pathways, and the website is claimyourfuture.org. And I would say this is probably best for fifth grade and up, although we have done some exercises with younger students, but my experience has been better with say fifth grade and up. It's been used all over the country and in other countries, and it's free again for Mainers. And there's a nice digital version, which is more game-like, and it looks something like this. When you go in to play Claim Your Future, the student, your child would get a career option. They can choose actually from 126, and that gives them a monthly income and then takes them through a monthly budget. And they have to spend their money for the month, making a series of decisions. You can see on the chart on this slide, there's the education cost, there's savings, housing, food, transportation, and so on. And each one of these requires a decision to be made by whoever's playing the game. And then in the end, across the top of the screen, the money is being drawn down on a monthly budget. The in-person game, you do a paper budget, but the one online, it does all the math. So the game aspect is to not run out of money and to see what you can actually have left at the end of the month. And ultimately, the really important thing here is the relativeness of what things cost. So what part of our monthly expenses is housing? What part of our monthly expenses is food? And then how does that relate to career and income? Again, 126 career options in the game, and these are based on actual data from the Department of Labor that we gathered. This most recent update was last year. You might see some of these and say, well, they're not accurate in my area. That is very possible. For example, the housing in the Portland area is going to be much different than the housing in a more rural area. But the idea is the same, and the relativeness of expense to income and the decisions that have to be made is the same for everyone. Claim Your Future is an excellent way to have discussions about money in a fun, interactive game style. And it has plenty of learning along the way. You'll see the question marks where you can learn more about a particular topic. There are career videos, short career videos for each career. So there's also an aspect of career education and career awareness involved when doing Claim Your Future. And if you think this is something that you want to see done at your child's school, please let us know or have your school get in touch with us and we can talk about doing that. We do this at schools all the time. And this is just some data based on a study that was done by Dr. Carly Urban about the effectiveness of Claim Your Future and how it has improved financial knowledge and provides an indicator of better planning and decision making in the future for students who have experienced Claim Your Future.
Steve, can you hear me?
Yeah.
We have a question in the chat here about Claim Your Future and how can homeschool families access the game or kit?
Yeah, great question. Definitely. So you can do a couple of different things. Again, online, you can go to claimyourfuture.org and there are different menus there and you'll pick the menu and I think it will give the homeschool option. I can't remember exactly the wording, but you'll find your way in through the correct menu. You can also do Fame Guest and you can play it that way. You would put your own name if it asks for the name of a teacher. It may ask what town you're in, but you don't have a school. Doesn't matter. It works for homeschool. And you can also request the kit if you want to play the physical version through the website. I don't want to change my screen right now, but I can look at it later. But on the website, there's a place to request a kit. Just make sure you choose the path for Mainers so that you're not charged for it because it's free for Mainers. And the kit, it's pretty self-explanatory how to use the in-person kit if you wanted to do that, but we'd always be happy to get on a call and help you through that. But I think you'll find the online version excellent for engaging kids in these decisions and a little fun look at careers, spending, a monthly budget and so on. I hope that answered your question. And I can circle back to this after I'm done with the slides and I can show you Claim Your Future for a moment right at the end of this presentation. Let me know if I can add anything else to that. I'm going to move to another program of FAMES called Invest in Me Reads. And we send books to every public school student in grade 1 through 6 that have themes of money and learning about money. And then there are activities to go along with it, which you can do at home. Even if you don't remember seeing the book, look for it this year. They go out in January. Here are the books that we sent last year. First grade, A Bike Like Sergio. Second grade, Those Shoes. Third grade, I love this one, The No Nonsense Guide to Money. Such a fun book to learn about money. Fourth grade, Priceless Facts About Money. Fifth grade, World's Coolest Jobs. Really popular book with the kids. And sixth grade, we send out some Claim Your Future, which I just referred to, information about playing Claim Your Future online. And on our website for Invest in Me Reads, through the FAME Invest in Me Reads website, there are guides to education guides for activities connected to each book. Extensive. You can print them or you can just read them off the screen and ask questions, interactive, both for the parent and the child, for the teacher and the student, about all of these different things. So again, these books go out in January. So if you don't remember seeing one last year, please keep on the lookout for it this year. And then go to every child in Maine in public schools, grade 1 through 6. There's more about what our Invest in Me Reads. If you go to Invest in Me Reads website, you can access all this, and you can also access it through FAME's website. More of what you'll see there. This is just a variety of the things I just mentioned. Games, future.
Steve, we have another question here just about the Invest in Me Reads books and if they're available to anyone other than public schools.
So for homeschool, for example?
The question doesn't call out homeschool, but I think that might be a good start.
Mary, can you put my email address in the chat? And anybody interested in who did not get these books or may not, who was not in a public school in Maine last year, send me an email and let's talk about it and I'll see what I can do to make that happen. All of these are online anyway, all of the guides to the books, but the books themselves, yes, send me an email and let me look into that further.
I can also add too that your public library probably has several copies of these books because so many copies go home to families and families will then it trickles down into public libraries after they have used them, or maybe they had their own copy already. So that's a good place to check too. So
yeah, excellent point. And one more thing, Mary, if you could look up and put in the chat is the link, the Invest in Me Reads link, for anybody who wants to go there. Yeah, so if you are able to get the book from, like Mary said, from a library, and then go to the website, all of these guides are all there. So you'd have both. But again, send me an email for more conversations about getting the books if you did not, if they did not come your way last year, or you don't think your child was in a school that got them. And I'll dig deeper into that. Some final thoughts. And I love this first one. We are teaching about money, whether we know it or not, whether we like it or not. Just like our kids learn from our behaviors and attitudes on, on the food we eat, they definitely pick up on it when it comes to money. Like it or not, so much of our society And our way of life is tied to finances, heavily marketed consumer goods, paying for school, you name it. Our politics deeply interwound with finances. So we are teaching whether we know it or not, and it's great to be aware of that. And the more we can talk about it, the better. Getting us involved as much as we can. Fun is great. Fun, laughter. It's emotional. Emotion prints memory. This is going to have a better chance of students remembering something if, while in the grocery store, you come up with a way to look at, okay, who can find out of these 10 cans of vegetables, who can find the one with the best unit price? And let's see if that's the best decision for our family. Things like that, or actual games. Don't go it alone. Famous here, many resources in addition to today, and you can email me with other questions anytime. I'm happy to follow up on these efforts and other financial education efforts that FAME is either connected to or delivering directly. And it's never too early, never too late. It's amazing. I taught students all the way through high school and college, personal finance. Some came to me with a pretty good foundation already in personal finance. Some came with absolutely nothing. All the conversations we had were effective for both types of students. For those who had learned something, they modified, they learned some more, they applied different filters and perspectives. For those who hadn't learned anything, they were ready to learn. And again, it's all around us. Everybody is aware of the impact of finances in our lives, in our society. I am going to just switch over to show the Claim Your Future screen really quick for anybody who's interested. Just 10 seconds to do that. Yeah, I'll reshare. I really, really recommend taking a look at Claim Your Future. So this is what the Claim Your Future site looks like. And if you go to play the game, from here, you'd select your state. If you wanted to, we're playing the online game. Play. And now here, you can see, select the grade, parent, educator. If you're homeschool, you could pick parent, or you could pick other. You can also pick FAME event. Any of these will work. All they're trying to do is give you better feedback later on, but you could pick any of these and they will work. Are you playing this game as a classroom assignment? I had picked parent, so no, but it asked me what town I live in. If I don't have the name of a school, you can see it gives you names of schools. And if you don't have one, you can just put other. And teacher's last name, you could just put your own name. And then you can go on and play Claim Your Future. It'll ask some questions before the game starts. And then you pick a career, and then it does the monthly budget. It's really, really a wonderful exercise, really wonderful experience, and can be done over and over and over again. A great way to explore monthly budgeting and career exploration. Okay, I got through everything. We're 10 minutes ahead. Are there any more questions? I'm happy to hang on here as long as need be, which I will do. But if there are no more, we really thank you for attending today. And I'm going to stop the recording.